Meat and milk from cloned cows, pigs, and goats now has the blessing of the FDA, but could it be a while before you see it on your dinner table? Our medical correspondent Judy Fortin here with all the details. And the critics are already weighing in, aren't they?
Oh my gosh, this is already a water cooler story, and it's just broken within the last couple of hours. It looks like it will be a few years off, but you may one day be eating a carbon copy of that steak that you ate last week. The long-awaited report from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration was released a short time ago in Washington. It says that milk and meat from healthy cloned animals and their offspring are safe for human consumption.
FDA is not recommending any additional measures be applied to the food or feed derived from these specified animals because food derived from these clones is no different from conventionally bred animals. In other words, the risk assessment concludes the meat and milk from cattle, swine, and goat clones are as safe to eat as the food we eat every day.
The FDA says it has insufficient evidence to comment on sheep. Now, overall, the FDA looked at two areas of concerns: animal health and food consumption risks. The group concludes cloning animals is a way to introduce superior genetics to the herd and claims it can produce animals that are healthier.
All right, so what are the critics saying?
There are a lot of critics out there. They're already talking about food safety. Now, there are many critics of the FDA's plan who are satisfied with their assurances, others who are still concerned about safety, and others who have moral, religious, and ethical concerns. And there's also concern about the potential impact of cloned food on U.S. trade. Some countries outside the U.S. are already worried about genetically manipulated food, and they're already raising some red flags about allowing imports. But some groups are satisfied that the food is safe, including for the Center for Science and Public Interest. We've heard a lot about this group over the year. It's now calling for Congress to hold hearings on implications of animal cloning. We'll see how far that one goes, Kira.
Well, how long before we can actually see the cloned food in the stores?
Well, some experts are saying 3 to 5 years. That's a long ways off, and it's really important to understand what's happening here. The actual cloned animals are really too valuable to be used in food production. They cost up to $20,000 to create in the first place, and they're mostly going to be used for breeding. It's the offspring that we're talking about. They're a different story, and it's important to note that the offspring are not clones in this case.
Well, will people know what they're buying?
Not necessarily, because we don't know if there are going to be any labels on this in your supermarket. You show up to buy your meat, you don't necessarily know what you're buying, and the FDA says it won't require labeling. Now, voluntary labeling by food manufacturers may be considered on a case-to-case basis. Now, I thought this was interesting. Cloned foods will not be included in organic food groups, which are labeled. So if you're looking for that type of meat, that'll be easy to understand.
Do you think people will eat the cloned meat, and could this change the way vegetarians think about, eating meat and
this
animals?
This is the big question that everyone's talking about today. Would you eat it? And the FDA wondered the same thing, so they actually held a focus group during its investigative research, and for the most part, people really didn't understand the whole cloning process, and those who were surveyed seemed more concerned about what the animals were being fed during development rather than how they were created. So maybe some education is at hand here. We need to talk more about the cloning process.
All right. Thanks, Judy.
You're welcome.
And you can read more about the FDA's report on safety of meat and milk from cloned animals at cnn.com/health.